Hello guys and welcome back. I'm going to be continuing to work on this 2.5 engine, and today I'm going to show you how to do the timing belt. Of course, you don't have to remove the engine to do this job, so the demonstration I'm going to be showing you, of course the engine's already out of the car, so it'll be easier for me to show you guys. This process can easily be done with the engine in the vehicle. If you're going to do a timing belt, you basically just have to remove some components to get access to all this. Most people will remove the radiator, especially if you're going to be replacing the pump. Most of the kits come with water pumps. Based on information online, these water pumps from Subaru, as long as they're OEM, can last about 3 to 4 timing belt changes. So if you're going to replace the water pump anyways, might as well just remove the radiator because you're going to have to drain the coolant. If you're not replacing the water pump and you just want to do the timing belt, a trick I've done, as long as you're careful, you don't have to remove the radiator and disconnect the coolant system. All you have to do is remove the radiator fans if you wish. That'll give you a little bit more room to work, and as long as you're careful, you won't damage your radiator. But anyways, maybe in a later video I'll show you the process, but I do have one video on how to remove a engine out of the Subaru, so if you want to check that out, it'll be up here in the corner, and watch some of the basic steps of removing the components like the radiator and the pulleys from the power steering and the AC compressor to get to this case. And then you just open up the case and then you'll have access to your pulleys here and your water pump. I already have most of the components removed, but it's pretty simple. You just remove a couple bolts, pull the belt off, easy as that. So ideally you want to replace the timing belt once it's around 90,000 miles. That's about the change limit you want to go, because the belt can start stretching or it snaps, and with these 2.5 engines, they're interference engines, so as the engine's spinning, the pistons can come in contact with your valves, which is a huge no. You do not want that to happen. A good way to ruin your engine. The other thing that can happen as these get old, you can see this tensioner right here is starting to leak grease, which is when you see things like that, which you probably won't see it because it's locked away in this case. As this starts leaking grease and hydraulic fluid out of this cylinder, it'll start to relieve tension on the belt, which isn't good either while you're driving, because then you lose tension on the belt could jump. And that's another way to ruin your engine. So it's just good to replace these around the 90,000 mile mark. And I recommend getting a full kit that comes with replacement pulleys, especially this one here. This is a common failure. I actually had an experience with this myself. I have an EJ 2.2, which luckily is non-interference. I was on a road trip. This pulley exploded. There were ball bearings everywhere. The belt was jumping timing. Luckily, I was able to drive it about 200 miles, unaware that it had jump timing. I thought it was just bad fuel. And I kept driving the vehicle in this condition, but with a 2.5, that would have ruined it. So make sure to replace all the pulleys along with the belt. Before you do anything, make sure to align and turn the engine over. There's a little mark right here on this sprocket. Right there, you see that little notch right there? You want to line that up with that notch right on top of there. Like so. That means all 4 pistons are in to the engine. So while you're removing the timing belt, there's no chance of the valves slamming against the pistons while you're working on your engine. So make sure that's lined up. And that's also the case for putting the timing belt on. So I'm going to just remove these pulleys. These are all 14mm bolts. Oh, wow. And obviously on here pretty good. Holy smokes. There we go. 1. Oh. That. And this one here, I've already loosened. And there's another pulley that's supposed to be right here. I already took it off. That's like the first one you remove to get the belt off. And then the pulleys you just throw away. Keep the bolts. For now I'll put the bolts back where they came from. And this bolt here, I believe, is connected to the water pump. Since I'm replacing the water pump, I'm just going to leave that bolt out along with the sprocket pulley pin. And then we take out the tensioner. Definitely make sure you keep the tensioner bolt, because I've bought in kits before where the bolt didn't seem to fit, so I just used the old one. And speaking of kits, I recommend only using Aisin. I'm using a Aisin water pump kit. And on the back of this is a washer and a little metal ring, so make sure you don't lose that. Next, I'm going to remove the water pump, and I'm also going to remove this bracket here, because behind the water pump is a little bit of a foam gasket to keep debris and dirt from getting in here. And I can tell it's sagging down on the back. So I'm going to remove these two bolts here, which apparently those are 12 millimeters, not 10. And I guess I'll just start off by removing the water pump for now, since I'm here. So there's a couple bolts you have to remove. Again, these are 10 mils. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Also, you'll have to remove this hose right here. You got this bracket, forgot to do that. So let me go grab my pliers. Let me remove this hose. And using a screwdriver to break the lip there, and then a big pair of pliers I just grab behind the hose. Give it a couple twists, slowly pry it off. Of course, the clamp is still on there too, because it broke. I can't get it off. There we go. Use the screwdriver to help get that off. Wow, there we go. There we go. And see, it's tucked up under here underneath where the hose is. There we go. 6. There we have our water pump. So bolt here, then the ones on the top, so 6 total. There's the inside of the pump. Gasket still attached to it. The blades. Now, got to clean this surface here and prepare the mating of the new water pump. I'm going to remove this plate now, like I mentioned earlier. Those are 12 millimeter bolts. You can see this foam piece that's dangling right here. There's another one back here, and that's helps keep the debris out of the timing belt area. Ooh, 1. I don't know why these are on. Oh my gosh. These are on pretty good. For the 10 millimeter. That's easy enough. Now it should just pop right out. Like that. Oof. Alright, I already bolted this back on with the foam insulation already installed. I just used a little bit of Ultra Black. Just stuck a little bit on there to help it stick, and then bolted this back on, so with pressure it should be all sealed up, which will keep dust from falling in here. Here's the water pump housing service. So Scotch-Brite pad makes it really easy to clean all the debris off and gunk, so make sure it's nice and clean. So wipe it down a couple times, make sure there's no debris inside. And then also, you don't need to use any silicone, just use the provided gasket. That'll be good enough, and you'll be ready to install your water pump. Here's our Aisin water pump kit. Here's the number if anyone wants it for the Subaru Legacy 2.5 1998. They'll give you apparently instructions of how to do it. That's handy. Here's our water pump, and this should be our components. Yep, our belt and all our pulleys right there. And Aisin is OEM equivalent, and this is the only kit I would use for Subaru engines. Now, Gates, I used Gates on a prior engine, but based off of reviews and what others are saying, they're starting to throw in a lot of Chinese parts, and it's not as good, and I don't want, with timing, you don't want to take any chances, so make sure to use quality parts, and Aisin is basically Japanese OEM equivalent. It's good quality stuff, and it'll cost you a little bit extra than Gates, but it's worth it. To me, it's worth putting an extra $100 into an engine instead of replacing an entire engine because a less equivalent timing belt kit failed. Here's our new packaged water pump. Pretty much the same thing as the one down below. This one actually might have extra fan blades. They also provide the gasket for our thermostat, and also they provide a new side gasket, or whatever you call it. Here's the provided gasket also with the water pump. Here is the little side gasket thing that you need to put on the side of it. Just should stick right in there. The old one has basically turned into hard plastic. Just push it on in like so. There we go. So it should be on the side like that. There's only one way the gasket goes on. I'm going to carefully line this up in here. It may take a bit of maneuvering to get this on, and it can be a little tricky getting the gasket to stay in place, but once you have it, just slowly start tightening in the bolts. Again, these are 12 millimeters. Alright, it's time to torque these bolts down. So you want to torque these down to 9 foot-pounds or 108 inch-pounds. And the Haynes manual, not the Haynes manual, the Aisin has instructions for the timing belt, but they don't have instructions of how to put on the, or torque the water pump bolts, which is interesting. So there is a torque sequence you want to follow when doing this. And again, it's 9 foot-pounds or 108 inch-pounds. So you want to go 1, so start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So clockwise, basically, starting with this bolt here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's 108 inch-pounds or 9 foot-pounds. So let's get to it. And I'm just gonna get a nice turn. Nothing's torqued yet. I'm just giving a nice turn so it's nice and even. Yep. As I'm doing that, it's loosening up all these other bolts. Okay. Back to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'll do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Now our water pump is on there. Now I just gotta find a clamp to put on this hose here. But yeah, you just put that hose on here and then clamp it up. Alright, now I'm gonna put it on the pulleys. Our new NSK bearing that came with the kit. There we go, new part. This only goes on one way, and this says NSK Japan. And there's 2 sides, so where it's indented, that's the side the bolt goes on, like so. It's always good to compare with your old parts. Our new bearing. This one's a lot tighter, which is good. Doesn't make a sound. Our old one was starting to get worn out. Shouldn't be doing that. And it's making noise, of course. It's a good bearing there. That was actually probably going to be, that probably would have failed. And we have our other bearing here. And the bearings that go here and here with the Aisin kit, they're the exact same part, so you don't need to worry about mixing them up. So like so. There we go. Next I'm going to put on the tensioner pulley, which comes in this big old box here. Here's our new tensioner pulley. Looks like it matches the bolt that I pulled out. There's that little ring there. So go ahead and bolt this in. And you notice it's got the little grenade pin right here, which you don't pull that until the timing belt is on. So get this bolt here started. Now we're ready to put on our timing belt. Now the belt's going to have markers on it that'll tell you where it's supposed to go. I believe this dash one right here lines up with your center sprocket. You'll want to make sure that your cam sprockets are lined up. So you have the marker here with this mark here, and these two need to be lined up down here with the mark here on the side. What's more important is the ones down here. Now you got to be careful when you turn these, because if you do this wrong, you can actually have the valves on the intake and the exhaust on the same cylinder head opening at the same time, which is not good. You can get bending of the valves there. So with this one, you have the one notch here that's supposed to line up here, so you want to turn this one clockwise, right? Oops, I got the wrong size. So you want to turn this one clockwise, and you'll feel resistance, and that's the valves opening, so don't worry. You can get yourself a special tool that would help you a lot. It will basically bracket down on both of the sprockets and keep it from moving. It's also really handy when you're trying to remove the belt. Those actually might be two separate tools, but just slowly get that lined up right about there. And see, it moved. That's the problem with this. It doesn't like to stay. Try not to bump it, and see, it already popped back. It's going to give me a hassle, I see. But anyways, on this one, you don't turn this one clockwise to line it up. And as you can see, you got the double dash here. That needs to line up with this double dash, and if this one would stay, we wouldn't have an issue. This double dash here, sorry. And this one you want to turn then counterclockwise, and you want to line this dash up with the one on the side. Like so. Let's try this one again. And it doesn't want to stay. There we go. Let's see how long that stays there. So next we can throw in our timing belt. Now, as mentioned, that center dotted line is going to go in the center there. So I'm going to line this up here. I'm just going to get it in here for now. Like so. That'll come there. This will go up and under like this. And that center one's not quite lined up. So give it some slack there. In like that. Perfect. Keep tension. This one will go up on this pulley now. Line this one up. Should just go right in here. Like that. Oops. That is not what I wanted. Alright, so I got most of the belt on there, so now I'm going to take that one pulley that we left off. I'm going to slide this in a little bit, and I'm going to push up. Slide that one in too, there we go. I'll put in some resistance on this. Careful not to strip the bolt when you do this. Again, this is 14 millimeters. Oh, press it up. Get that bolt in there, like so. Careful not to strip it. There she goes. And we have it in. And our timing belt is almost on. Alright, so let's take a closer look. So here we have the notch here, which is lined up with that mark there. Coming down here, these two are off, which means I missed my mark, and I'm going to have to redo that. Right there, yep. See how it's not lined up? Got to fix that. That white mark is supposed to be here. This must have moved on me when I was trying to get this in. This mark is good. This mark It's good. These two, I'm not sure if those two are lined up or not. Let's look over here. Looks like that one's good as well. So I just messed up this mark, which means I have to remove this again and reset. So you'll have to keep doing this until you get it right, but the general belt wraps over the top of this, goes underneath this pulley, wraps around these two, goes over the top of this one, wraps around your gear here, over the top of the water pump, down on this sprocket. So I gotta fix my mistake, and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, got this fixed. Everything's lined up now, like it should be. So if you're like me, these marks on the belt are not good enough. So what you can do is count the individual teeth. So, and this is the teeth on the timing belt itself. So starting on this side of this mark, right here, that's 1, 2, 3, and so on. You count all the way up to this last tooth here on the other side of the mark. And there should be 51 total. And I already counted it, and that checks out. Then you go to the other side, count from this tooth on this side of the line, and then you should end here, and this one's going to be 54 and a half teeth. And then, if you want, you can count from here to here, between these two lines, there should be 28 teeth there, and same here on this, 28 teeth there, and everything lines up, everything looks good. What you might notice is these marks are not always perfect. You can see here, pretty much lined up. Down here, pretty much lined up. If you look here at these two doubles, looks like they're offset just slightly. But everything's good. It's lined up. That's just how it works sometimes. And we're going to do our final test here to make sure everything is good. Alright, now I'm going to torque the rest of these bolts on the pulleys to 30 foot-pounds. So I'm going to start with this one first. Oh. There we go. There's one. So the pulleys were 30 foot-pounds, but for the tensioner, it's only 20 foot-pounds. There we go. So you want to turn the center crank a couple of times slowly to make sure there's no binding with the pistons or any valves. So go ahead and do that. You'll feel a resistance, but that should be the compression. There we go. Everything feels good. And that is how you do the timing. You can go ahead, pull the pin. And there we go. That should put tension on the belt. So next, I'm going to put the new thermostat in to the water pump. Here's our new thermostat. You want to put the gasket on, of course. There's a little groove in there, and you'll just have to wrap it around the ring. And this part goes up into the water pump, and this faces down, like so. So you just stick it up in there, and then make sure the gasket pops into the water pump housing. You just go around pushing it in, and eventually it'll stick, just like that. Then next, we put on the cover plate here, which just bolts right on. Got one started. Get our other one started. Get it a little tighter. Kind of go back and forth for a nice even bite to it. Once it's hand tight, you can then use the torque wrench and get the rest of the way. So I'm going to torque these to 54 inch-pounds. They can be torqued anywhere from 48 to 60 inch-pounds. I just like to meet it right in the middle. So that'll be, what did I say, 54 inch-pounds? There we go. Double check. And there we have it. Also, if you're like me and you put bolts back where they go, don't forget to remove this bolt out of your old water pump before you dispose of it, because it needs to go back on your new one right here. Put this bolt in. Now we'll torque that down. For the 2.5, the center cam bolt, crank shaft bolt, gets torqued anywhere between 90 to 100 foot-pounds, and I decided to do it right in the middle at 95 foot-pounds. And then with that, just slide on your timing covers, bolt them on, and you're good to go. So, this is how you change a Subaru timing belt on a 2.5 engine, and the water pump as well. So I hope you found this video useful, and there should be more video and car related content coming out soon. So thank you all for watching. See you all in the next one.